Paper 3 workshop on tackling evaluate questions. I'm going to go through what the command word says you must do. Like when you were at school, you probably played dare, double dare, kiss, command or promise. If you command something, then you've got to do it. Alright, so what do you have to do in an evaluate question? Well, measure the value or success of something and provide a balanced and substantiated conclusion. Review information, then bring it together to form a conclusion, drawing on evidence such as strengths, weaknesses, alternatives, and relevant data. That's straight from the exam board. That's their blurb. What does it look like when the examiner uses level-based marks scheme and kind of assessment criteria? Well, and I've tried to unpack it on the right hand side a little bit. There's 4 levels for your big 24 marker. Level 1, which is a stonewall fail. Level 2, 7 to 12 marks. If you're top of band 2, then you're probably looking at a D. Level 3, 13 to 18, that's between kind of your D's and C's to your B's. And then 75% onwards, your A's and your A stars will be in level 4. How do they split up the marks? Well, there's 4 marks for AO1, which is just basically knowledge and understanding. So, does it sound like A-level geography? Yes or no? Basically, if it sounds like Key Stage 3 or worse, then you're going to be in level 1. If it sounds like Super A-level geography with terminology, you're going to be in band 4. Simple as that, really. AO2, where the Lions kind of share where the marks are. Find fully logical and relevant connections. What that means is, are you linking the data in the resource booklet to actually answer the question? Alright? Or is there a disconnect between you answering the question and what's in the resource booklet? So, yeah. Link to answer the question directly and use the resource plus your own knowledge and understanding to do it. Be careful of lift-offs. You don't just list everything from the resource booklet to answer one of these questions. The questions will be complex, alright? To show that you kind of get the complexity of the question that you're answering it, you've got to develop your points and arguments. Yeah? There's going to be arguments for or against, for strengths and weaknesses, pros and cons. Do you agree with this view or don't you agree with this view? However they word it, my best advice and tip is just reword the words from the question. If they are saying, evaluate the strengths and weaknesses, then just use their words. Yeah, one significant strength is this. However, on the other hand, the most significant weakness is this. If the question is, to what extent do you agree with this viewpoint, then again, follow the rules, use the words in the question. Yep. The most significant argument to agree with this statement would be blah de blah, off you go. The most significant argument against agreeing with this statement would be, so you're directly answering a question. Right, this one's interesting. Full and coherent interpretation that's supported by evidence in level 4. If you have a look, level 3, a partial but coherent that's supported by some evidence. Level 2, partial interpretation that's got limited coherence, and then level 1's a disaster. So, interestingly, if you're worried about timing on this exam, it's far better to have a shorter answer that's partial but is like awesome geography with some evidence and maybe cut your answer short to get a good conclusion in than it is to write kind of 4 pages of nonsense that's not coherent with lift-offs and no synoptic links in. And yeah, don't go for the more is more strategy with this. Build an answer, and I'd rather see a partial but excellent answer that's shorter than 4 pages of nonsense. All right. Level 4. part of the command word is rational substantial, to form a conclusion and come to a judgment. So it's not just in the assessment criteria on here, it's part of the command word. So if you don't do it, what can I say? There's no excuse to say I've run out of time, I've not done a conclusion. Cut your answer short somewhere else to get one in, because without a conclusion, your answer is going to get smashed. Alright? That is the only word I can use. Smashed to pieces. It's not a little extra on the end. It's fundamental to even getting in level 1. Yeah? So look, level 4, awesome conclusion. Level 3, a good one. Level 2, some kind of conclusion, even if it's a bit vague. Level 1 is like you've still made a judgment, alright, even though it's generic. Imagine if you've not got one, you're not even in level 1, yeah? So your answer gets smashed. Simple as that. Fully supported by balanced argument that's drawn together coherently. So yeah, throughout, you want to be writing evaluatively on the one hand, on the other hand. Next paragraph, on the one hand, on the other hand. Be wary if your teacher's kind of telling you to do all your strengths in the first half of your answer and all the weaknesses in the second. The stakes are high if you do that, because if you run out of time, not only have you not got a conclusion, but your answer's unbalanced, so it gets smashed twice. So yeah, be careful of that. Synoptic links is AO3, and a bit of critical evaluation. So synopticity I'm going to talk to you about in a second. Yeah, and in the critical bit, in the resource booklet, deliberately there will be data or opinions and viewpoints which subtly contradict other parts of the source. So don't be confused and think, well, this is not what section A is telling me, or this graph don't quite match to this key player's opinion in section D. That's deliberate, right? They want you to make sense of that and give both sides of an argument. Look at it as an opportunity to actually to show off. Don't look at it as something to be scared of. So what do we have to do? Speak like a geographer for AO1, right? Answer the question using the resource booklet as much as possible that's relevant, and your own knowledge and understanding to do it. You don't just simply lift off, right? On the other hand, you don't just simply explain without using resource booklet. 3, develop your points and arguments. Don't write so succinctly that you're just lifting off. Have arguments for and against as you go. Quote data and evidence from the resource booklet. It is partly a reading comprehension activity, this. The answers, or half the answer, is in the booklet. The other half of the answer is in your brain with your knowledge and understanding. You've got to do, it's not up for debate, you've got to do a conclusion that makes a clear judgment. So don't fence sit, kick off first sentence in your conclusion. These countries could learn from Singapore's development. Yep. Or overall, hard engineering is more of a strength than a weakness in tackling erosion, whatever. Synopticity needs to be sprinkled in throughout. So I don't need long, chunky, like half a page essays on telling me about kind of Ecuadorian bananas or Three Gorges Dam in China, even if it's got something to do with the question. Range and kind of sprinkling in synopticity throughout is better than having big chunks of it. And then be critical. Right, here we go. Let's have a look. Oh god, what was I here? My top tips. There's loads of stuff in here. Let's have a look. Right, first thing. Read that. Proper planning prevents poor performance. These questions are complex, right? If you set off blind without a plan, good luck, right? You're toast. Game over. Bug the question, make sure you understand what it's actually asking for, and then do a plan. Now, here's one from a student of mine. I have a couple. I've got his permission to use this. So, from a recent mock exam we did, evaluate the view that developing countries have much to learn from Singapore. So, well done, Daniel, is bug the command word, he's underlined the bits of geography that he's got to kind of link to. And then he's followed the next instruction, which is awesome. He's done a brief plan. And if you look, a plan doesn't have to be like every bit of data and every point that you could possibly, like, it's brief, it's scribble, it's his shorthand. Look, argument for developing countries learning much, rapid economic development, global linkages and globalisation, migrants, TNC interaction, environmental. I'm not sure who he's getting out there, but he knows. Arguments that developing countries don't have a lot to learn: inequality, politics, dependency. So he's got a structure, yeah. And that can change as you're writing. You can add things in, but he's got some kind of structure. All right. Once you've done that, I would also recommend kind of somehow assessing or ranking which of these are most significant. So just very quickly rank them. Your arguments for which is the most significant or important, yeah? Because you're going to start with them. So if you think it's rapid economic development that other countries could learn from, that is your most significant factor. Tell me that when you make the point, yeah? Kick off with that one to start with. However, on the other hand, there's inequality and dependency. So you're assessing as you're evaluating. You're making judgments, yeah? Right, other bits and pieces, yeah. So plan and rank. Plan and rank. Careful, yeah. Right, another one. That's for a question before that, but somebody else's plan here. Evaluate the sustainability of Singapore's economic and population growth for an 18 marker. This is a more detailed plan. It took a bit longer. This might have took 5 minutes to do. Again, but look at that. How confident do you feel when you start to write your answer with that in front of you compared to a blank page? Yep. Your answer's in front of you, innit? Easy. You've done the hard work. Now all you've got to do is string it together. So don't underestimate the value of planning. And here's another one from the same student. Now this one, I like this because he's realised my 24 marker's a big question. So he's bugged it and he's underlined the right bits. And then he's kind of thought about doing, well, how can developed countries learn from Singapore as his counter argument. And then he's crossed it out because he's realised, hang on a minute, the question's not asking for developed countries, it's asking for developing countries. So bugging and planning, that's evidence right in front of your eyes. It stopped the student from going wrong straight from the off. Yeah, his plan now becomes, right, just developing countries. Yeah, so you can see the value in doing that, hopefully. Right. Let's have a look then. Oh my god, where should we start? Structure. Evaluate. I've made a little typo here. But yeah, there's 18 markers and 24 markers. The 24 marker is asking for a lot of different elements. So structure for both, really. Define, bit of diffle. Defining the first line, the keywords from the question. 4 to 6 Peasel paragraphs. Your 24 marker, you should be looking towards the 6. Your 18 marker, it's 4 to 6. I've made a bit of a typo there. For your 18 marker, if you've got well developed, what I call Peasel paragraphs, you don't need any more than 4. It's far better to do 4 really well with an awesome conclusion than it is to do 6 that are missing elements at criteria or have a conclusion missing. But your 24 marker, be aware the difference is 6 marks. In reality, you know, this one there needs to be more in this. Yeah? Right. So I've got, what is a Peasel paragraph? I've made it up this weekend, actually. You'll be pleased to know. It's like a Peel paragraph, but with an added element. So you start with your point and your argument for, list it, and its significance. So just like we said when we've planned an answer, economic growth is sustainable in Singapore, or it's the most sustainable element because, yeah, you make a judgment and a significance at the same time. is in your opener. Quote at least one piece of evidence from the resource, right? This could be one piece, or you could find more than one piece. Now is the time to pop it in. Yep. Develop and explain why. Develop and explain your point. Get in your synoptic link, and then link back to the question. However, give a counter argument and follow the same kind of structure, but for the counter. The most significant argument against is this. For example, as seen in figure 5, which shows this. This means that it's lacking sustainability because, yeah. Get in a synoptic link, link back to the question and significance. So there's, yeah, for each argument and counter argument, you've got balance all the way through. You've got your AO1, your knowledge and understanding, you've got your AO2 from your resource, you've got your AO3 from your synoptic links, and you're answering the question. Yeah, easy as that. It does require you to skillfully craft an answer rather than waffle till your heart's content. Language, connectives and openers, what I should be seeing when I read these. Yeah, on the one hand, on the other hand, however, but, you know, if you're being critical as well, on the one hand, figure 5 shows this, which indicates Singapore's economic growth is sustainable. However, figure 6 kind of challenges that view with, you know, an opinion from key player that it's causing harm to them. It's not sustainable, whatever. So, yeah, you can be writing like this throughout. I should be seeing, making judgments, the most important, the least important, any kind of support as well. So figure 5 shows this, and similarly figure 6 shows this. Yeah, the evidence points to the fact that Singapore's economic growth is sustainable, whatever. How do we evaluate at a high level, at A level? Well, what we don't do is, we've got to speak like a geographer, yeah? So we don't say things like, this is good because, this is bad because, you know, it sounds like primary school stuff, doesn't it? So what criteria can we use to evaluate something? One, time scale. So short term versus long term. I've put an example. Illegal deforestation may provide short-term benefits in terms of short-lived economic gain for local people, but long-term environmental consequences. Scale as well, geographers, we are so interested in what's happening at different scales. Is it a local, a regional, a national, an international, or a global scale? Yeah, that goes for impacts, for managed success and management. Everything in geography is happening at a scale over a period of time. So, and then the other one is your sustainability still. So the type of impact we should be categorising in terms of social, economic, and environmental. All right, unless the question asks for something different. And on that kind of speak like a geographer and the language front, I've given two examples. Given two examples. One's good, and one is. I'm not even going to insult bottom set year 7 here, to be honest, because some bottom set year 7s have probably produced better than this. On the left, this is good because people make money. This is bad because the environment is harmed. Yawn. You know, it's primitive, kind of basic language. We don't want to be seeing that. You know, as your openers and connectives, you want to be evaluating using the criteria. So a couple of examples here. Long-term socio-economic benefit for the tourist industry is this. The winners in this scenario are illegal loggers because, however, this has had environmental impacts at a larger scale, a regional scale, national scale, whatever, because you know, and I'm being specific, I'm naming groups of key players, I'm specific with my time scale, with my scale, and then I've put an example here or a paragraph, so you can pause that and read that back to see what good literacy and good kind of stringing an argument together is important. Right, your synoptic links part of your Peasel paragraphs then. How can we do it? First way is named specific players, right? So not just saying people or businesses. In the resource booklet, you will have specific named stakeholders that you can pull out. So name specific players. What's their attitude, motives, and actions towards an issue? Describe it, prove it by quoting the source. And how might this create a future, or how might it increase uncertainty? Yep. Now it's got a link through from the named player, the attitude, motive, and action to what might happen in the future. What I saw a lot of in the in the trial exam was naming players. Kind of like this bit's missing. Yeah, so it's kind of like half a synoptic link, but you need to sequence it through. All right. Concepts and themes. Sustainability, inequality, globalization, mitigation and adaptation, systems, identity, thresholds, risk, resilience. You should know these like the back of your head and know when, back of your hand even, back of your head, and know when they're relevant to help you answer the question. Yep. A good sign that you've got these in is when I see that word. So I'm seeing country X, Singapore, is over-reliant and interdependent on country Y for this. I'll be seeing things like, on the one hand, this group has a really low income levels, and there's income inequality compared to this group. Yeah, I'll see the word to know you've got the concept in. The third one, which is where you need to pause once you're at the synopticity part of the paragraph, is, and just pause and think, can I think of any other place in the world or any other case study example that I've studied in my geography that's similar to this, right? Example, if you are talking about how countries are over dependent on exporting primary goods such as, I don't know, iron ores or metals, well, you might not have studied another country that does that, but you might have studied Ecuador that's over dependent on exporting banana crops. Yeah, it's a similar example. What were the results of Ecuador kind of doing that? What's the problems with being interdependent or over reliant on a single product to export? Yeah, so it takes, to get these in, there's one way I found works with students in the past. Think of a synopticity from any of the others, and then once you've done that, pause and think, can I think, before you go on and link it back, can I think of a parallel example where I've seen something similar? Yep. If the answer's no, well, you can't do all about it. You've still got something else in. If the answer's yes, then you might get player actions, futures, link to a concept really quickly like over-reliance and interdependency, link it to Ecuador bananas. You've got, you can get 2 or 3 of these into a single paragraph, yeah, and then your synoptic links are going to be super, super, super good. Other things, keywords from different topics, so I know that you're not lifting off. In the resource booklet, there won't be that many keywords from your topics, so you're not going to see words like water insecurity and absolute scarcity. It's unlikely, they're not in there deliberately because they give you the scope to put your AO1 in yourself. Yeah, so the facts and figures in the source booklet need to be combined with key terms from the different topics. All right. Another thing as well that can strengthen answers, I forgot to mention this, is models and theories. Yep, so Rostow's theory of development, you've got periphery, what's this one here? From tectonics, pressure and release model. Yeah, so think of your models and your theories. that you studied as well. You can get them in to back up your judgments. Right, how long has this video been running? 25. Won't be much longer than half an hour then, you'll be pleased to know. Let's have a look at a couple of examples. So remember, I'm looking for this kind of structure. After you've done your diffel, point and its significance. Resource use, explain and develop. Synoptic links, could be a player's action futures and a parallel example, could be a concept and a parallel example, could be a model, theory and a parallel example. Yep, so could get 2 or more examples into that bit. Link back and make sure you answer the question. Alright, so we'll look at this plan from Dan the man. Did a little plan. Yep, quick. Let's see what he's done then. The world awaits. Right, here we go. And I'm not saying this is a perfect answer by any stretch of imagination, because he's wrote in green for one, which is annoying. Right, so straight away he's not done a diffel, I don't think, but he's kind of put a focus on question. So the view that there is much to be learnt from Singapore can be agreed to some extent, depending on which measured a development are being compared. Yeah, alright. From an economic standpoint, Singapore was transformed into a commercial hub with industry consisting of 72% services, strong trade links with global TNCs, and the third largest container port have helped contribute to an advanced sustainable economy. So, yeah, he's used probably 2 or 3 bits of resource. He's told me that he's choosing that. His point is about the economic standpoint or development. Furthermore, to develop in such a way with a lack of natural resources and hostile neighbours. So he's critiquing, yeah, he's kind of getting into the issue. He's saying that they're doing this, but it's quite difficult as well at the same time. So a bit of critical analysis. Let's have a look at the next bit. Lead an example of how to develop in little time very rapidly. Alright, what's missing from this paragraph? I'll let you have a think about that. Here's what we want to do. What do you think's missing? Next paragraph. However, countries such as Brazil and India shouldn't be following Singapore's political situation to develop. For the most part, it is the 8th most corrupt nation and ranks 153 out of 180 on the Press Freedom Index, also with a large industry in being a tax haven for wealthy companies and individuals alike. This has created a huge amount of inequality between the wealthy and the lower middle class, which could result in further political tension. However, the economic policy based in trade and education, alongside the 80 grand cost for a traditional family car, could pose beneficial for a country such as India and China that suffer from air quality the equivalent of smoking 20 fags a day. Right then, so I mean, this is like it's got most of the elements in, just that maybe it's not as clear cut as this structure here. So what has he done? He's told me who shouldn't follow Singapore's kind of outlook, and maybe who's got not a lot to learn by not doing that. He's quoted some data. He's developed his point when he's synoptically when he's talking about inequality. He touches on it. Future, so result in further political tension. Key players' actions and futures, possibly a bit flimsy. And then he's critical when he talks about economic policy based on trade. Quoted some resource, but I like this bit just here. His synoptic link helps him answer the question. So he doesn't just say developing countries could learn from Singapore because, or they don't learn from Singapore because. What he's done is he's used his knowledge of other developing countries, what he's studied in the course, like India and China, and told me why they could learn or not learn, yeah, because of health and air pollution, right? So synoptic links aren't just there as an add-on, yeah, that you sort of bolt on and stick in. They're designed to help you answer the question, yeah. You know, if you're talking about, like I say, over dependence and interdependence on exporting one primary resource, type of primary source, and you know you're using the resource booklet to do that for the country in the booklet, but you can support that point by saying, well, we've also seen problems where this has happened with other primary resources exports, such as Ecuador with their bananas. Yeah, so the synoptic links should, if you're doing them at a high level, they should help you answer the question, as well as being a little bolt on, if you like. Yeah, and he links back when he does that, so he tells me who's going to benefit, who's going to learn or not learn, and links and tells me why. Yeah. Despite being having beneficial economic policies and environmental policy, the UK government is heavily dependent on exports and has no interest in creating sustainable fuel alternatives. So players, actions, touches on future a little bit. Like I said, this answer's not perfect. It's got some really good elements, and it's got some ones that are missing. But I think the development of the argument's pretty good. 90% of the energy exports. Petroleum, 40% of the water supply comes from Johor. He's got that from the resource booklet. Creating dependency again, synoptic link on imports poses a risk. Synoptic link, since countries can change relationships and have conflict, which could cause significant losses for Singapore. So, yeah, what he hasn't done there is synopticity is good, his resource use is good. He's tried to get a bit of players' actions and futures in. He's not told me which developing countries would benefit, so he's not linked back to a question. Yeah. What's this? This is the plan. Yeah, so that's bits are an answer. It's not all of it, I don't think. Right. So it's got some elements in, some are missing, and they're kind of mixed up, which is, if you want to look at kind of a perfect paragraph that does it probably more structured, if you like. Let's kick off with a point and a focus. So on the one hand, developing countries could learn the most significant and useful lessons. We've got that judgment in from Singapore in terms of its high levels of globalisation. That's my point. Yeah, globalisation is the point. Then I bring my resource evidence in, and I'm only going to use one piece. All right. The AT Kearney Index in Figure 6 shows Singapore to be the most globalised country on the list, scoring 1,000 with its economic integration being particularly high. So I've just used one piece from the resource booklet. Super strong answers might add on, similarly Figure 7 shows this, similarly Figure 3 shows this. Or they might critique it and say, well, on the one hand, it's got high levels of globalisation, but on the other hand, there might be a little counter within there. Yeah? And be critical of the source if it's contradictory. You can weigh that up in here if you want. But we'll keep it simple for this one. So, point, globalisation, most significant and useful lessons. Alright? And if you look, I've used words from the question. I've just turned it round. So, developing countries could learn the most. I've just turned it round in the question. I'm constantly glancing back at it. Then I'm going to develop it and explain. This is where you're proving that it's not just a lift off. Alright? If you leave it at that, you're lifting off. Yep, you've got to then expand and tell me, well, why does that mean that they're going to learn something? What's the benefits? So this means that it's a very open economy, switched on, which encourages investment, FDI and global TNCs. Again, I know the stuff in the resource booklet here I could have put in to back that up, but I've just kept it simple for this one. This can then boost the economy in high-earning sectors such as banking, finance, tertiary and quaternary sectors. Right, I'm going to pause here. I'm going to think, where can I get in a synoptic link? And I'm thinking players, action, futures, concepts, parallel examples, models and theories. I've got to pause, yeah, or you won't do it. Just stop. Right, A similar example of a country following this: switched on. Yep, that's key terminology from globalisation. Again, you're showing AO1 with that. I don't think that term's in the booklet, so little key words like this tell me that you've got good knowledge and understanding and you're not just lifting off. The switched on approach and increasing levels of globalisation has been seen in China over the last 30 years. I'm going to link back now, read the question again. Well, which countries might learn? Countries in the world that could learn from Singapore could be countries that are switched off to globalisation, such as North Korea. That's if they wanted to learn. Maybe they don't. This is the most significant lesson developing countries can learn. Again, I put a judgment in just to tie it back. And then I'm going to do exactly the same for the counter argument. Yeah. I mean, how many of these? That paragraph, average size writing, is going to be a third of a side, isn't it? So, you know, it's substantial. Yeah. When we say a paragraph, and you need between 4 and 6 of these, you know, if your paragraphs are shorter and you're not quite developing as much, then I'm expecting a little more in range, kind of. I'm expecting maybe 6 or 7 paragraphs, but quality is always going to score higher if it's got all the elements in like this, and it's going to score higher than 4 pages of waffle, basically. Yeah. So however many you get through, that's just what you'll do with given your ability, but just keep it quality and keep trying to get these elements in. And then you need a mega conclusion that directly answers the question. Now, with your mega conclusion, no fence sitting, on balance, are countries going to, let's have a look at the question, do developing countries in general have much to learn from Singapore? It's either a yes or a no. Yeah. Answer the question, yes. Tell me your main arguments why that is, your most significant arguments why. Brief little counter argument, and then answer the question again to make sure you do it. Yeah. So you can refer to key evidence, to your main significant arguments for, but the main thing is make sure you answer the question. All right. Adios. Best way to practice these is to practice bugging, planning, and then going through the, what's it called? The Peasel paragraphs. Yeah, Peasel. When you get to the synoptic link bit, pause, stop, think. That's my best bit of advice for this. And use the words in the question to turn it round. All right, adios.